Good evening. Welcome to our Tuesday, December 20 Finance Committee meeting. We'll do a call to order starting on this side.
Diane Potter,
Megan Carlson.
Becky Fless,
Jack Pitteroff,
administrative.
Pat Hopkins, Superintendent.
Andrea Dish, Business Manager.
Dave Dalsty, Director of Operations.
Carrie McGuire, Director of Technology.
Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is to discuss student activity accounts.
Let me kick her off. So currently, the district is doing business with 3 financial institutions, and it's getting to be overwhelming. It used to be that we used to separate our assets because of FDIC. There is no longer that need because of sweep accounts and products that they have that now protect our money. So for our general account, what happens every night, the bank sweeps out everything in excess of the FDIC limit. It actually purchases government stocks, bonds, whatever, and then sells them in the morning and then sweeps the money back into our account. So what I would like to do is move the funds that house the student activity accounts from the current financial institution that they are in and consolidate it with one of the other 2 financial institutions. It will make things easier upstairs. And that is what I am asking.
Makes sense.
Questions?
press the easy button.
No, makes
I
sense.
don't anticipate doing it in the middle of the year. It takes a lot to move accounts. I anticipate us doing it at the end of this fiscal year.
Right.
Pat, obviously, I'm going to use one of the banks that we currently do business with. But whatever we can to make things easier just seems to be the prudent thing to do.
That makes sense. And I believe I've heard that explanation before of the sweeping out and sweeping back. I believe I've heard that before. So, yeah. I would entertain a motion to enable Andrea to investigate this and to proceed. So moved by Diane. A second from Jack. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Efficiency main incentives, lighting retrofit. Is that you also?
Start, or do you want to start?
You can start, sure. I can fill in the blanks if needed.
So for those of you who are new to the board, which are essentially all of you with the exception of Becky, a few years ago, we did what was called a performance contract. We hired a company, we went through our facilities, and we found energy savings that would pay for themselves with the savings. It has been a few years ago, and that large project, while it touched many things, what it did not touch is our interior lighting. So with the increase that we are paying per kilowatt hour, you've heard me talk about the increase of our central main power supply, but it's just power supply. It makes sense for us to think about becoming more efficient and doing another performance contract. There are 2 ways of borrowing for this kind of project. One would be to go out to the voters, and the other way would be this performance contract. It's a way of finding savings to fund the project. So for the first 2 years of the project, there wouldn't be any savings. You'd be paying for the upgrades. So Gabe and I thought we would bring somebody in to look at all of our interior lights and replacing those fixtures, and to see if we can get a shorter payback. We are still paying on the previous project, but we're looking for a project I would hope for under 10 years, in hopes that we might be able to reduce our overall electricity costs once the project is paid for.
Yeah, and these sort of projects are paid back by the savings.
Mhm.
So they're basically 100% funded with the savings that we save on electricity. That's the whole idea with these sort of projects.
And Efficiency Maine right now has these substantial rebates. So it makes sense for us to look at doing it now.
Yeah.
The thought is for us to allow an independent contractor to go through the buildings to target, to see what our savings might look like. His thought was to look at potential other savings aside from the lighting to see if we wanted to do additional projects as an add-on, but we would bring the whole scope of the project back to you and you would decide what you wish to move forward with. But that is.
Right, so the first scope is lighting. That's the first main thing that we would look at, but while they're in the buildings, they might as well look at the other items that are in the buildings. Right now, Efficiency Maine has rebates, especially for municipalities and school districts for heat pumps, roof ventilation units. So they would look at all of those components while they're there and do kind of like different packages. They would do the lighting as one. They would look at the other things and say, maybe we could look at these certain rooftop units and replace those if they qualify. And each of the packages, I guess per se, would each item would have its payback. So if it takes 4 years, 5 years or such, and then we can kind of go through and pinpoint which ones that we want to do. And we did the same thing when we did the last project. They kind of gave us a whole list of things that we could pick, and we picked the ones that had the shortest payback time.
And just as a reminder, what the last project was, a lot of people aren't going to remember what that
No.
project was.
And
That was upgrading all of our heating systems. We switched over from oil to natural gas or to propane, put in all new furnaces. We upgraded and improved our HVAC systems.
Building envelopes. We
And
did
it
some
was
building
it
envelopes.
was 8 to 9 years ago.
Was it that long ago?
So it started in actually in 2013, I think he mentioned it started.
our natural gas 8 years ago.
So
But I
Wow.
think we still have 12 or 13 years to pay on this project, which is why I'm
Yeah.
looking at a shorter.
Yeah.
But it would ultimately be up to the board to decide which projects they wanted to undertake.
right, yep.
Yeah, I think that was a 17-year project, if I recall. We also previously had an electrical upgrade, but that was a number of years ago, really before LED lights
Right.
became so common.
Yeah.
And it did not include interior classroom lights, correct?
Well, so it upgraded them to high efficiency T8s, but really it only gained us maybe a couple watts here and there, where these units, you're talking, some of them could be a third less, or 2/3 less usage than what we have now. So it can be a significant savings.
And Tom was mentioning that the overall controls in the classrooms have come down in cost. So it would enable each teachers to have dimmer switches so that they could bring down their lightings instead of unscrewing bulbs in the ceilings to get the
People do that?
designated. Well, some of these lights can be very harsh.
Yes.
So, and what
Yeah.
else was he talking about?
So it's basically it's smart technology.
Yeah.
So it has sensors that sense the amount of natural light that's coming into the classrooms. So say if the sun's coming in from the south, this row of lights would automatically dim down to keep the room at a even lit level, basically. So it does it on its own. The other part, and all of it can be controlled by a smartphone or the wall pad. It's a lot better than what we have now, and that would be all wrapped into this package, where the cost of those units have come down considerably compared to what they were years ago.
At the MSBA conference, the vendor was there and he had pictures of the same hallway with the lighting redone, and it looked like somebody went through and completely painted the entire room because it had brightened up so much. It was just amazing what lights could do.
Tom Seekins?
Tom Seekins, yes. Yep. So,
Great.
yeah.
That's good, yeah.
So, yeah, we would just like permission
Yeah.
to explore, to invite him in, to pull together some possible projects and then to present it to you and the
Mhm.
board
Mhm.
to determine whether you want to move forward or not
Right.
on any of the projects that he comes up with. So we won't do anything without, of course, bringing
Right.
it back to
Of
you.
course.
And part of the worry is these incentives are going to be running out pretty soon. So if we don't capture, especially the lighting incentives, capture them now, there's really a push to, like there has been for a while, to go to all LED lighting and completely go away from the standard bulbs. So once they really stop making those standard bulbs, he's thinking only a couple of years out, and the rebates and incentives are gonna be completely gone.
basically what he said is if everybody is forced to buy LEDs, so there would be no incentive to get people to convert. So at this point, it makes sense to do it now while there are still financial incentives to do so.
So the financial incentives would reduce the overall cost of the project, or would they come back to the district in rebates?
So the rebates would buy the project down. I would assume it would lower the payback period. So you'll see with each project how long it will take to pay off that project. And it's not until the project is paid for that the district will then see any savings.
So in the short term, it's not going to reduce our electricity costs at the moment.
It will reduce our electricity costs, but we'll be paying out an annual installment payment for the project. So one offsets the other.
Until we reach that payback date, whether it's 5 years, and then after that, then it would be savings after that.
The whole thing with a performance contract is the contractor guarantees the savings. And there's legal contracts in place that they need to guarantee the savings, hence performance contract. It's a very specific type of project.
So each year they come in and they would measure the usage, look at our electric bills, and verify that there is savings.
They will
And it
send-
matches the amount of savings they said we would match.
They'll send us a 100-page report that none of us know what to make of, but they will show us that
Yes,
we
they
have
will show it.
achieved our savings. So, as they're required to. So,
I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
So let's entertain a motion to give Gabe and Andrea and Pat the authority to go out and save money. Motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries. Great. When did we do the motion sensitive lights throughout the high school?
That was part of that
2013?
last energy upgrade.
Yeah.
Yep. These ones would be even better.
There would be what?
They would be even better.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely. It would all be new sensors.
Uh-huh.
It would just automated controls, which would
Yep.
And so I just have one expectation, is that you include this office?
Yep, we already talked about it.
Okay.
trust me, I already chimed in.
We did, we said we would look at all facilities in the
Good.
district, not just the
Excellent.
schools. Yep, absolutely.
Maybe they tackle the heat in this room.
Oh, they tried to tackle it when they did the performance project before.
Pretty thirsty right now.
Yeah, my feet like
It's
it.
virtually impossible. It's an old building and
Yeah.
the cost to, I don't remember
Oh,
the
it
cost, it
was-
was exorbitant to really fix the problem here.
It's crazy,
So
but
we
I
just
believe
live with it.
In this building.
Yeah.
Just in this room, I mean.
Okay, next, medical loss ratio report.
So I received about a month ago a copy of our medical loss ratio report through September. So the medical loss ratio report is a report that's provided to us by the MEA, the Trust. They're the ones who oversee the contract of the district's health insurance. And as you may not remember, each school district's rates are based on their medical, their usage, the amount of, obviously the amount of services that are purchased and pharmaceuticals during the year. So the good news is that through September, our medical loss ratio is 75.40, which is really good. But we still have another quarter to go, October, November, December. And I don't want everyone to get too excited because last year when they did our rates, they took other factors into effect other than the district's medical loss ratio. As we were just coming off COVID, they took into account the rising cost of medical treatments. I guess that's the best way to describe it. So it's not just this, but I am hopeful that our MLR, our medical loss ratio, remains low so that we see, I'm hoping that we don't see double digit increase in our health insurance this year. So it's just kind of an FYI.
Excellent. Next, quarterly financial reports overview.
Do you wanna, Becky, do you like licorice? Does anybody want?
So sorry.
You're fine.
You just need to have
There you go.
something in your pocket at all times,
I keep hoping that it's gonna stop.
but it doesn't.
Oh, it's supposed to last forever. These coughs are supposed to last for like 6 weeks.
Well, I don't have time. Thank you for caring for my throat.
I have some.
So every month I email to the board a copy of the quarterly financials. I don't do it at the end of September, at the end of June, because we're waiting for, it's the end of our financial year and we usually have the audit that is out by now, but this year we have switched our practices, so we don't have that in hand while it's almost done. But this is a copy of the financials, the quarterly financials that I sent you for the first quarter of FY23. They include the months of July, August, and September, and I thought I would go over them quickly with you so that you had a basic understanding of what you were looking at. And if you had any questions, we could address them at this time. So the first one that I'm going to look at the top of it, it says Finance Committee Quarterly. This is an expenditure report and it's broken down by the articles, the expenditure articles that the state requires that we break the budget down. So basically you're looking at the adopted budget, the revised budget, if we've had to move money around, and I think for this instance, it was something just coded incorrectly. The reported period is our expenditures to date, the amount that we've actually issued checks for, the amount that has gone out the door. Encumbrances are our purchase orders that are in progress, things that we have purchased that have not yet been paid for. The amount remaining, and then the last column, you'll see percent remaining. So we are, after July, August, and September, we're about a quarter of the month through the year. So we'd want to be looking at percentages of around 75%. And as you can see, most of these accounts have 75% or more. There are a few cost centers that do most of their purchasing at the beginning of the school year. Student and staff support, which would include curriculum, her licenses for curriculum and whatnot. So those go down faster. And just there are other things that are purchased upfront. So those are the reason those are less than 75%. There is nothing here that I'm alarmed by. I've looked at it and this is all natural. Anybody have any questions about the expenditures?
If you're not alarmed, I'm not alarmed.
Nope.
Okay.
So the next one that we're going to take a look at is the revenue report budget to actual. Don't get alarmed by all what appears to be negative numbers in parentheses. This is how this system actually records revenues. It's basically the same idea, but for revenues as opposed to expenditures. So you would expect to see the same on this report. So on the first page, you will see the general fund, that's Fund 1000, that's the district's budget. We get most of our revenue from the local towns and the state. So you'll see the state subsidy like 3/4 of the way down in general fund, that's at 75%. The reason that you don't see the local allocation, so there are 3 of these that make up the local towns. Local allocation, required allocation, local allocation additional. And the other one is adult ed, which doesn't appear in Fund 1000. But they're up around 93%. That's because some of the towns begin their fiscal year in August and they don't start seeing revenue until August. So sometimes at the beginning of the year, some of the towns are slower to pay than others, but we're caught up to date. I'm not concerned by it. This is only through, like the expenditure report, this is only through September. Fund 1500 is adult education. Those are his instructional programs. What you can see there is the local allocation. That's the town's portion of the adult ed program. And again, that's at 93% because of the slow pay at the beginning of the year. The special revenue funds, those are reimbursements. So all of our federal funds, we spend them first, and then we ask the state for reimbursement. Food service is the same way. So in food service, you'll see that almost nothing has been reimbursed because we haven't at this point done a request for, or we haven't processed a claim. So we hadn't started receiving money yet. Adult ed enrichment courses, you can see where a little bit of this money has trickled in. And the rest are just the student activity accounts, which really didn't need to be on here because we don't track their revenue by fiscal year, but they're on here. Any questions about it, what anyone's looking at? Again, there's nothing that I'm alarmed at here. This is
Excellent.
Why are they all in parentheses?
That's how our system records revenues. Okay. So, yeah. On the revenue report, it's good to have lots of parentheses. So the next report that we're going to look at is the activity statement report. So this is all of our student activity accounts. This is money that doesn't necessarily belong to the district. It belongs to the students, and it's housed in the school checking accounts at each school. We are the guardian of the funds. We protect the funds. It's called an agency fund. So you can see on page 1, the high school, they currently have a balance of $183,000, and you can see all the individual accounts that make up the high school. And if you go through the schools on page 2, you'll see the beginning of the middle school and so on and so forth through all of our schools. All of the student activity accounts are tracked through our accounting software here. Those accounts are reconciled through our accounting software. We keep tabs on them upstairs as the administrative assistants reconcile them. We can see their activity. They are audited as part of our annual financial audit. The system will not allow any of these accounts to go into the negative, which was a problem we had once had years and years and years ago, but we haven't seen for years and years. So we feel like we have a good set of internal controls for these accounts. What you will also see in here on the last page is the scholarship account, where we oversee this office, all of the financial scholarships for the high school. And there are a few other things tucked in there, like the fuel depot account that we share with the city. That's where we also keep that money in that account, and it's kept separately. We both contribute, both us and the city of Gardner contribute to it annually. I know I'm going through these kind of fast.
The detail is impressive.
Well, it's a system-generated report, so
Oh,
don't
that's
be
great.
too impressed. It's nice. It's really nice.
I remember when we used to have back years and years and years ago, as you said, I do remember that, so this is impressive.
So the last report that I gave you is called the Net Asset Summary Report, and this is broken out by fund. So you'll hear me talk about funds. So as I just mentioned earlier, Fund 1000 is the district's general fund. It's our budget. So you can see that right now there's an ending balance in this district's general fund of $3.5 million. And that changes as the year goes through, and it's just how we track. Fund 1500 is the instructional program of adult ed. You'll hear me talk that when we talk about adult ed, that their enrichment fund, which is Fund 6150, actually pays for their instructional programs, which is Fund 1500. So if you scroll down and you see 6150, you'll see 6150 is in the green and Fund 1500 is in the red. They net out. But we like to keep track of where each fund is. But overall, those two make up the adult ed program. Fund 2000, again, is your grants. So you can see there's 254,000 in the grants. Fund 2100 is the $300,000 that we have set aside for the special education, the special revenue account that we are holding in case all things go bad. The next fund is 2930. It's the school lunch account. That account pretty much continues through the negative through most of the year, and then in the last few months it catches up as we process more claims from the state. And as you remember, we are being reimbursed for all of the students eating. So I don't know how long that will last, but while it lasts. So last year, the fund ended up in the green, and we did not have to use any of the money that we've set aside to cover whatever the school lunch program doesn't make. I don't know how long the state's commitment is to fund lunch, but it may be a conversation for us if we want to continue to have that. Worst come to worst, it becomes part of the general fund, and we use it for help me.
For taxpayer.
Yeah, to buy down
MSAD.
we use it to buy down for carry forward. There we go.
That's the word.
Yeah. Sorry,
It's fine.
I've been sick.
It's fine.
So we use it for carry forward, which actually buys down the amount the locals have to spend. So it doesn't hurt, and I would rather us have it than for our school lunch program to end up in arrears one year, but we seem to be in a good place. Fund 4500, for those who've been here for a long time, we put $50,000 in another special revenue account for capital improvements. We haven't put any more in there, but that is earmarked for that. Fund 6150, as I mentioned earlier, it's the enrichment programs of adult ed. And by enrichment, I mean, it's all of the things that are really non-instructional, like the basket weaving and the stained glass and the trips and the driver's ed. It's all of those other things other than high set and trying to think.
The diploma program.
Thank you. So it's those, the state requires us to maintain those two programs separately, which is why they're in two separate funds. On the backside of this, Fund 9,000, the 9,000s, you'll see the agency funds again. So most of these are the school the school activity accounts that we just looked at. The exception is the first one, 9,000, and it has a 25,000. Those are where there are some students who are purchasing a second meal or buying a la carte. It's their money that is in their accounts that is being reflected. So it's an agency account. It doesn't belong to us. It's on their account through the school lunch program. And then, as I said, the rest of the accounts are the school activity accounts that we just looked at. And hopefully, if you look at them, the balance on this is the same thing as the balance on the net asset report. Actually, I know it is because I checked before I gave it to you. Any questions about what we're looking at?
Only one, the lunch accounts, if you are, so when you put money in your own account, you can get a la carte. However, if you don't, and you get free lunch, you can only use the.
So the state buys the first lunch for students.
Mhm.
A lot of students buy 2 lunches.
Oh.
So the second lunch comes out of their student account, their student lunch account. The same thing if a child buys, I shouldn't say a child, a la carte. We have a la carte at the middle school and the high school. They can buy, instead of buying a meal, they can buy, I don't know, an apple. That would come out of their account, and that's where these funds are stored. It's another agency account that we're a guardian of.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay,
A lot going on upstairs.
there is a lot upstairs and upstairs.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, mhm. Health services.
Okay, so I'm actually gonna take this one on. Let me talk to you a bit about elementary nursing services. Yeah, we need to talk about that. When I first arrived, just to give you a little bit of perspective, when I first arrived 12 years ago, we had one elementary nurse. At the time, we had 5 buildings, and she covered all 5 buildings by herself. The needs have changed considerably. So when we built the budget this past year, we had built into the budget just 3 elementary nurses. Last year, we had 4, but the 4th one was paid for out of federal dollars, some of our COVID money. And it was just for 2 years. So the money ran out, wasn't available. We didn't fill the position, thinking post-COVID, right? So we really felt that we would be able to cover the 4 buildings with 3 staff members. That is proving to be more and more of a challenge. In November and in December at the school board meetings, you've heard our elementary administrators highlight that as one of the biggest challenges right now. And so I am here with a proposal to request, I know it's mid-year, but to request that effective immediately, as soon as the whole school board would take action, that we hire another full-time nurse with the understanding that that would automatically be built into the budget for next year. That would give us 4 permanent elementary nurses. The nurses and the building administrators have put together for this conversation. I did make copies. While we're large in a lot of ways, we're also small enough that I didn't want to send out some of the information because I didn't want anyone to be able to personally identify any of the students who are listed here with some disabilities while their names aren't here. People may say, oh, I know who that is. So I have information if you want to look at it, but that's why I did not make copies.
Visits on there?
Yeah, no, well, they do have lots of nurse visits, and as you can imagine, you know, at the beginning of the year, you know, you were looking at, in a week, maybe 64 types of visits. Now it's 200. We have so many students and staff who are sick that our nurses right now are pretty overwhelmed. Given that we have just the 3 nurses, one of the other challenges is we have the 3 covering 4 buildings. And when you have a nurse absent because they get sick too, then we're finding that it's really difficult to meet the immediate needs of some of our students. And some of the diagnoses that we're seeing in our schools, just to give you an idea, I mean, certainly we have students who are diabetic. We have cerebral palsy, epilepsy, scoliosis, blood clotting disorders, heart issues. We have catheterization that is needed, and our nurses need to be in the building to catheterize students. We certainly have asthma, students who are in wheelchairs, and it just seems like things are just increasing, and we know we have more and more students with high needs coming. And so the nurses are really concerned that if there is a student with a high need and they happen to be at another building, isn't that always the case, right? When you're at another building, that's when you really need to be in your home base. Right. Kind of the reason why years ago we kept individual principals for all of our buildings. It's the same sort of thing. So we are respectfully requesting that effective immediately, again, we would take this to the board if you approve and hire another nurse. Now, I've spoken with Andrea about it, and Andrea gave me some paperwork. And if we were to hire a nurse for the remainder of the year, we would be looking at about 103 days. Approximately, depending on when we actually hire. So when you look at benefit and salary, this is an estimate because salary will depend on the years of experience, right? Whether they have a bachelor's, whether they have a master's, all of those factors. So it's somewhere around $40,000 to get us through the rest of the year. And so Andrea has looked at this and believes that we can transfer $40,000 from regular instruction in Article 1 to Article 5, which is where our nurses are under student and staff support, to cover that for the remainder of the year. And again, it's with the understanding that it will be built in for next year. So that is my proposal. I know that the nursing staff are exhausted right now. They're really feeling the weight of having so many students with high needs, but also with mental health issues as well as physical issues. So-
And I was just gonna say also the administrative staff that are picking up the slack when the nurses aren't there.
Correct. And the administrative assistants.
Yep.
Right. So it's becoming a bit overwhelming. So we hate to add positions in the middle of the year, but this year has turned out to be very different from what we had envisioned when we built the budget last year. So,
Are there nurses out there to hire?
yes,
Well, that's good.
we have applicants.
Nice.
Yes. Well, I mean, we'll see. We haven't interviewed them yet.
Right.
But I'm really excited by the
No, that's
fact that we have, last time I looked, we had about five applicants.
Perfect.
So
No, that's
we'll see.
great.
So my request is that you would all support this proposal and then take it to the school board on January 5th for the full board to vote on and take action.
All right. A motion then to give the superintendent permission to Interview.
Motion?
Well, to hire, to
hire.
create this
Hire.
position and
Create
to
and
hire.
then, okay, create and hire. Motion by Megan, second by Diane. All those in favor?
Great.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So we will add this to the board agenda and ask them to approve your recommendation.
That's
So
great.
thank you for that.
They will also need to approve the transfer of the 40.
Yes, from those,
I think we'll wait to find out who we hire
right?
before we make that transfer. I would hate to do
Okay.
it twice.
Okay.
But we'll just let them know that they will need to do that.
Between all of us at the board meeting, if I don't say that or Becky doesn't, if you can remind me that we need to also include the transfer. Thank you for that. And that's all that we have for the agenda tonight. We, at the January Finance Committee meeting, Gabe is going to be able to propose or to present the capital improvement plan. So we can look at the 5-year capital improvement plan. And Andrea, I think once again, we need to walk through the ED 279. You always do an exceptional job with that. And I think it's important for the new finance committee members, but for the public to also understand what month is an appropriate month to do
I
that.
would like to do the ED 279 in February at our February meeting.
Okay.
And let Gabe walk through the capital improvement plan on the January.
Okay,
The other big thought was that we were going to look at the per pupil expenditures in January, provided the state has updated the reports online.
yeah, if possible, I would like to do that. Oftentimes, we present that information to you as part of the budget pamphlet that we send out to the public. I'd like to look at that on the front end. I think that there's really some insightful information available
That
to
you've
us.
gathered.
That I've
Yes.
gathered,
Yeah.
and we're looking at it a
That's
little
good.
differently than in past years. And so I think to start our budget process, considering talking about those types of expenditures that we're seeing elsewhere, and to consider the impact here for our district, I think is maybe a better way of kind of kicking off the budget development season. Know that our staff are currently preparing to develop their budgets. So many of them are starting now. They will spend some time over Christmas break probably, and after the holiday break, they will be presenting their proposed budgets to their administrators. And the administrators will have their budgets due to Andrea by the middle to the end of January.
The end of January.
Okay.
Okay. We're done then.
That's a timeline for it. So we're done.
You did good work.
I apologize for forgetting. I've kind of lost track of time
It's been kind
The
of a
last-
week or
the last
two.
couple days, yeah.
Yeah.
Particularly hit my house, so I apologize for
It's okay.
No worries. It's all good.
busying myself with financial reports.
Yeah.
Glad I live close.